So my name's Nick. I'm from New Jersey. Big video game nerd, into anime, comic book stuff like that. I run video game tournaments back home where I live, and just generally enjoy nerd culture and just hanging out at Magfest. Mainly Smash Brothers Ultimate. Also a little bit of Tekken, Street Fighter, Dragon Ball, whatever's big at the time, but mostly Smash Brothers Ultimate. That's my favorite one. So I want to say roughly since 2014, whichever one was the Tron theme one was my first one, and I've just been going every year since. This is the main con I try to set myself aside for every year. So about 6 years now. I actually found out about it through watching the VODs on YouTube. I used to watch a lot of the old JonTron VODs on YouTube and just the panel VODs in general. And I've always wanted to go, and then when I finally had the means to go, i.e. like money and a car, so I had to gather some friends together, and we actually stayed over in Alexandria the first year, and then have just been coming back ever since. So. What I like best about it is you just come and hang out. There's not you're not like here to do something specific. You can just kind of free flow, do whatever you want, hang out, play some games if you want, go to a panel, go to a concert at nighttime, and of course partying. Partying's always a fun aspect. And then just mainly hanging out with my friends, either ones that I've come down with or ones that I've met over the years at Magfest that I'm seeing again at the next Magfest to hang out. Ooh, actually, I don't have to think long about this one. I think it was last year. There was a Voice Actors After Dark panel, and that panel is typically run by Wes Johnson, but I'm gonna blank on his name so hard right now. Who's the guy who voices Duke Nukem?
John St. John.
Yeah, John St. John. So John St. John was drunk off of his ass at that panel because he had like his panel right before that. So we rolled into that panel, and he was just like drunk, eating lunch meat, and like trying to like power his way through the panel, and like the whole time it was fantastic and hilarious. Definitely a panel that I try to get out to every year is the Voice of Palooza stuff. So I'm actually really terrible. I haven't looked over the guidebook completely yet. But like I said, like typically the Voice of Palooza, so like I know that's a thing that's happening, so that's definitely the one panel that I'm looking out for. I tend to go to the Game Chops panel that DJ Cutman has, and then I don't know if they're here this year, but the Continue crew always have a really fun panel where they just play games with the audience. Typically they get into like base wars and stuff like that. It's just a really hype and fun time. But if they're not here, I'll probably just look over the guidebook and see what else is going on. The best one? Well, I mean, like, they're all, like, good in their own right, because obviously your first one is always going to be memorable. But I think my best one is probably the first year we had a room in the Gaylord, and we had an atrium suite, and, like, literally my entire crew of friends was here. I think that was my second or third Magfest, which was, I want to say, was it the Kirby-themed one? Or the one before that one, whichever one it might have been. But that was definitely the best Magfest because like my entire crew of friends was here. I had my first time like in the Gaylord, had an atrium suite. We were just hanging out on the balcony, and like that was when I was like, holy shit, like this is really sweet. Like this is a lot of fun. So my favorite theme up until this point is probably the Kirby one, but mostly because we got King Donut out of it. And then the ones that I don't know of, I don't know, because like I said before, the earliest one I went to was the Tron one. That was pretty sweet. The Metroid one was pretty sweet too, because I'm a huge fan of Metroid. But I actually don't know about previous. I know there was like a Zelda themed one, but other than that, I don't actually remember any of the older Magfest themes. Yeah, I try to go to the DJ battles every year. That's typically the high point of the Magfest experience for me is, well, I guess in recent years Poe's Nightclub, but before that the big arena performances that they would have in the music hall. They both have their pros and cons. I think the arena though is better because you have a larger space, just to kind of like freeform in. Like, because last year I went to the nightclub for the DJ battle, but then Crush 40 was here last year, and they were in the larger space, and like you had room to breathe there. But the nightclub scene is also pretty fun too, because you can just chill and drink and kind of like go upstairs to the concert, go downstairs, and you're not like kind of secluded into one spot. So they both have their positive and negatives, but I think preferably I'd rather be in the larger room. James Landino. James Landino is my favorite. He's always the best. He out of all the video game composers or DJs that come here, he's my favorite. I tend to follow him the most closely. He's done music for other games that I've played, like Amplitude. He has a really good song in Amplitude. Has a lot of other good, really good remixes. So I tend to follow him closely, but I think he definitely won that one. Yes, actually, I recently went to a Matty show local to me in Philadelphia. I'm a big Matty fan. I've seen Porter, Deadmau5 I saw out in Red Rocks in Colorado. That was an amazing show. But I also like other music too. Like I'll go see like metal shows. Like I saw like a Megadeth concert before. I've seen Mastodon in concert before, Black Sabbath, stuff like that. So I'm all over the place, really. Well, here it's a little bit more special because it's like a room full of nerds, whereas like you go to like an EDM show in Philly and it's more just like, I don't want to use the term, but it's more like normal people. Well, not normal people, but like they're more just people. There's people who go to concerts outside of Magfest, right? Like EDM shows, who are more so just into like the EDM culture. Whereas I feel like people going here, they're going because it's electronic, but it's also like video game type stuff, and it's more just nerding out than it is just listening to the music. Always. As long as I am walking this earth, I will be back at Magfest. So typically, like, going into Magfest, right, like, Thursday's kind of like everything's starting to open up, you explore a little bit. I try to do most of my purchases on Thursdays, because that's when everything is just coming out. And then Friday, I typically anticipate as being, like, our big party nights. And then Saturday, I try not to go as hard, because I know I gotta drive home on Sunday. But like Friday night is like the get drunk, go to concerts, and just be just a complete menace until like 4 a.m. type day. So I don't know, it would depend, honestly. I feel like a lot of the appeal for Magfest is the fact that it's completely self-contained within the walls of the Gaylord. I've been to other conventions before, I guess notably I've been to MomoCon, which that has a hotel attached to the convention center. I've been to Otakon, which is in I think the Washington Convention Center. I'm butchering the name of it, but I like the experience of Magfest because you just walk into the hotel and it's attached to the convention and you never have to really leave the building. So as long as they kind of create that same kind of environmental feel, I wouldn't have an issue with it. But if it was like you started separating the buildings, then I'm just kind of like, I don't know. Because like I said, like a large part of the appeal is that I'm inside of the hotel the entire time. So much to the fact that like even when I was like staying across the street last year, it kind of didn't feel as fun because I wasn't like in the mess of Magfest for like the entire like what 86 hours, whatever it is that they're open for. Any book, game, or media? I feel like this is gonna sound really funny, but it's not gonna be a specific game, but once I say what it's gonna be, you're gonna understand it. I feel like if Magfest was a game, it'd be a game published by Devolver Digital, because Devolver just posts like the most like obtuse, obnoxious, and just off-the-wall type shit that like I feel like Magfest would be right underneath that umbrella for them, because when you make a game like My Name is Pedro, Enter the Gungeon, even like Hatoful Boyfriend, like that's the kind of nonsense that they put out, so I feel like if Magfest was a game, it'd be a Devolver Digital game. Yeah, exactly, yeah. Yeah, sure. So if you would be so kind to, myself and my friend, like I mentioned before, we run tournaments. We go under the name Bento Box Gaming. You can find us on most social media. On Twitter, we're at Bento B Gaming. On Facebook, we're Bento Box Gaming. And on Instagram, we're Bento Box Gaming. We're local to South Jersey. We're trying to expand more so, like out, hopefully to run tournaments at more conventions and stuff like that. But like I said, we mostly run Smash tournaments, but we're also dipping our toes into more stuff like Tekken and Street Fighter and really anything else anybody wants us to run. So if you want to go ahead and give us a follow, that'd be very appreciated.
Well, my name is John William Crandall, or Billy as a lot of people know me. My thing? Well, here I am part of the arcade staff. I actually just joined the museum staff, but I've been an attendee since 2004. I actually don't live too terribly far away, just about 45 minutes south of here off of 95, actually. So, for this department in particular, it was around either Mag 6 or Mag 8, I believe. We were still in the Mark Center, where they had 8.5 at a few years back. And when I walked downstairs, coming off the escalator, it opened up into that one bottom floor, and there was just arcade machines everywhere. And my mind was blown. My parents had told me about going to arcades and playing and stuff. I had video games. They played games with me, on an Atari 5200, the 2600, things like that. So anyways, getting to actually see, I think it was the Popeye machine, really, that got me, because I played that game with my dad on the Atari 5200. And I saw that and I was like, wow, okay, this is the machine, I can touch it, and it's here. And I started talking to a fellow named Buffet, this giant, burly mountain of a livable man with a beard bigger than you can imagine. And he was the owner of all the arcade machines at that point. And I started talking to him, he's like, you want to help out? And I was like, heck yeah. I was already going to the convention, as an attendee anyways, so the opportunity to actually lend a hand and kind of guide, giving people a chance to really touch or feel, do something that they hadn't done before or just didn't have the opportunity to anymore, is what guided me. So, when he gave me that opportunity, I just took it and ran. And I've been doing it for the past, we're up to, I think we just figured it out, Mag 18 now, so it's been a number of years now, 12 or so. And since then, I've gotten to know many, many more people throughout the different departments. Like I said, Brendan earlier was one of the people that first introduced me to the convention altogether. And after talking to him and getting to know other folks, it just became part of my yearly, an annual ritual, if you will. I mean, and I work in the arcade department, so we tend to get here a little bit earlier than the attendees or a bit of the staff, and start setting up, depends on what year it was, but as early as Sunday, things like that. We've been here through the New Year's parties and tried dancing around those people while we're moving machines and stuff into the atriums. But it's been fun. It's been a great experience, and being able to deliver that kind of an experience to people that just, otherwise you don't really have those kinds of things just out and about in local areas and functioning, and especially on free play, that's the best part. You don't have to stand there and pump quarters into it. But being able to share that experience and know, that I had a part in that, and that my friends had a part in that, and get to design and put together the arcade and all of that, and deliver the experience. That's why I do it, I suppose. I like to curate and share. I mean, when I started going to Magfest, there wasn't even an arcade. The first Magfest I went to was in the Clarion in Williamsburg, back in, it was 04. And literally we had a giant room with a bunch of consoles all over the place. I brought my own PC with me and hooked it up so I could play videos for people off of Newground, Flash videos off of Newgrounds, and just silly meme-ish stuff at that time. I also had I finally got Stepmania for myself, and got that started up and let people use DDR pads and things of that nature. And it went from there not even being an arcade to eventually, a few of them peppering themselves throughout the next 2 years or so, to when I first started on the arcade, when I first discovered the arcade in full at Mag 6 or 8 it was, I still can't remember which year, where there was literally 20 cabs. But one of the cabs that was there that's really integral to Magfest's history, the entire Colossus roar, and that whole aspect of it, is the 6-player X-Men cabinet that we have downstairs. And that thing sat in the back hallway of that arcade room on the right-hand side, and we had it on free play, so you could just tap the X-Men powers. It took life away, but you were on free play, so you didn't care. And so when people would play Colossus, everybody has their own special. The Colossus roar, though, resounded throughout that arcade. Like it was, it just pierced the air. And that was the game doing that. And that caught on from there. Like that roar echoing through halls of that hotel is where that Colossus roar that today or this morning, I think it was, somebody started and I listened to echo back and forth between the walls of this massive building where patrons that aren't even here for the convention just joined in to yell at the top of their lungs for the heck of it. And it's when I was actually walking by, it was just a family and their children. Their children just looked at there and just started going, ah! So I was like, what? You know, it was great to see. But, so that's like the earlier start. That machine has been here since then. Charles Margolis, a good friend of mine, an important member of the community, his dedication plaque is on the machine. If you look at the center of the 6-player cab, there's a golden dedication plaque on it, and then there's images that are actually on the side of it, I believe, on the lamination. And it's the dedication to him. He donated that machine to Magfest after that. And yeah, it became like a mimetic object, I guess you could call it. So that was the start. And from there, we were moving cabinets in. It was multiple people bringing stuff in from all over the place. We would drive to Baltimore, Catonsville. We drove to the eastern shore of Maryland. We went down below Richmond. We were over in St. Mary's County. I mean, it was just a loop and a trek early on when we were literally going to like individual collectors' houses and picking up 3 machines at a time and dragging them through the mud on the backs of these dollies that didn't have the nice little lifty things or anything like that. It was entertaining. It was different. All of a sudden, like 2 years later, you know, the next year actually, we have Penske trucks with these nice lift gates on the back. So instead of trying to like, when I was working like with Eric downstairs, Eric Holnicker and some of the folks from Baltimore with the DDR machines and really just dreadfully heavy cabinets, we had a U-Haul, you know, that had the pull-down ramps. So you had to push that 300-pound machine up that steep incline onto the back of the U-Haul. And Eric is about all of like maybe 100 pounds soaking wet. And the friends that are working with him on these DDR cabs are maybe 90 pounds soaking wet. At the time, I was like 350 pounds. And they're trying to push this arcade cab up on those ramps, and it just let go. And couldn't let the big old cab kill the little kids. Step in and just shoulder it. Like, all right, help, and just shove it back into the vehicle. And yeah, those days, and then snow. Snow is always a thing. I mean, it's wonderful. It's oddly beautiful this year for Magfest, temperature-wise at least. And actually, it's been really sunny too. But anyways, snow has been a thing. We've been snowed in, and dragging 300-pound pieces of wood through snow and mud is an unpleasant experience as well. So then, as time went on, we got the warehouse, and things got stored, things became more organized, there was less trekking out in the field like that, but then we were just getting more volume and more volume and more volume. I mean, we went from like 500 people at the first mag I went to by the time I was in the arcade for like 2 or 3 years, we had hit 9,000 attendees. And now, I mean, last time I looked at the numbers, it was like 25,000, I think, is the capacity or something like that for this hotel. And that's, you know, around the numbers that we've been since then. Or, you know, getting up to that point, I should say. So, we've gotten more people that come in, more interest. The layout of the arcade is fluid. It changes every year. But the kind of cabinets that we've gotten over time, it's really interesting to watch the way they've changed. Like, it's gone from a very heavily classic arcade to much more the what Buffet likes to call dancey boxes. The DDR machines and the rhythm games and things of that nature have really become very prevalent down there as well. So much so that this year I helped set up a classic arcade museum instead of just having all the classics downstairs. And that made me realize I've been doing this for a bit when you're starting to set up an arcade museum for the stuff that was just there before. 1943. I like my shmups. It's one that was, arcade game-wise, very influential in my younger life, playing with my siblings, things like that, and got me into that genre just overall. I can't say, no, I don't have any one favorite. They've all, especially the way I live, it's all become a large, I don't know, cumulative experience, if you will. I can't even tell you which year I started on. You know, time has become more malleable to me, if you will. So the entire overall experience, feeling the idea behind it, the principle, what we were trying to convey to begin with, it was a party that you came to. Like, literally, I was going to go play video games with, you know, a few hundred of my friends, essentially, and party. And I think that, and the impact that it's had overall on my life. I mean, I started going to this by myself years back, but now my sister comes to it, my brother comes to it. They've helped me staff the arcade for a few years now, and it's become not just like an event, but a family event for me. So to pin any one memory on that, I believe, wouldn't do it justice. Yes. The event that we do out in the woods down in Goochland County or wherever it is, Louisa County is where it was at. Back in 2005 though, the idea was tossed around. The initial emblem for stock was the Guitar Hero guitar with the little woodstock, you know, chocobo woodstock on the end of it. And that was developed like back when we were even first tossing around the idea of having a camping event, just throwing a bunch of nerds in the woods with video games essentially and a little bit of power. And it took a few years. I mean, there was things that happened in life and things of that nature, but eventually that came to fruition, and it was neat being there for just the initial development of the idea, I guess. So that's my heaviest involvement with any of the non-primary mag items, was just being there for the conceptualization and development of stock as like a beta version. If it never got off the ground at that point, but Brendan would be able to explain more about that to you than I can. Mag Labs or Mag Classic, Mag 8.5, whichever one of those. That I didn't. No, that's just the thing I attended. I didn't have any developmental input on that at all. I attend or I assist where I can as a staffer or an attendee, no matter what. So, West, no, too far away. Well, I want to maintain the integrity of the idea that I have, that I want to share and preserve history. I mean, these machines are deteriorating. People need to learn to maintain them. People need to learn how to care for them. And to be able to put your hands, anybody can download a ROM, anybody can do, you know, whatever on a computer, but be able to stand in front of a physical cabinet and lay hands on it and play it, the tactile involved, there's a different level to that than just playing on some other box or something like that. I want to maintain that integrity by being able to maintain these machines and share them with as many people and as large, you know, broadcast it still. Keep what's there and continue it on. Don't let people forget where these amazing video games that have photorealistic graphics came from. Little blocks on the screen, vector lines, just analog circuitry, things of that nature. It's amazing, and it needs to be preserved. And I want to make certain that that is done. That's my primary goal, is to preserve and share electronic gaming's history. Now, how we do that? Now, I also don't want to exclude what's going on currently either. I mean, that is the biggest part of our room now. So, I suppose it would be to continue to service people with what we currently have and maintain the top of the line. You know, this is the freshest thing in Japan. You can't play it. There's only 3 of them in the US right now. But I also want to maintain that this was released in 1970X and is older than your mother, and you can play it right now. Like, for free, no quarters. So yeah, that's what I want to do. And I want to get better at it also. I'm not that good at organizing things yet, so. I'm working on a private server MMO called Morna TK. I just do the crafting system with some basic scripting and stuff like that, but if you want to give it a look, Morna, MORNATK.com. You can download the game and check it out.
I'm a legendary boomer. Oh no.
My name is Matty Peroski, known by my cosplay name as Matty's Masquerades. My cosplay is currently Jammer Lammy, a spinoff from Parappa the Rapper. As for what I'm about, well, I started going to conventions back in 2014, I think, with Anime USA, and I've been going ever since. When I go to cons, my main goal is just to, unload, escape from real life for a couple of days, and previously, I was known as a guy who unites the friendship circles and also the guy who has all the fandoms, just simply due to how many I'm in. But now I'm starting with this con. I'm starting to do a photography, so I'm just kind of trying new things lately. I live in Herndon, Fairfax County, so it's only about an hour away from my house. I believe my first cosplay was Steven Universe at Anime USA 2014.
Why did you pick that one?
At the time, it was really easy to do, and I've been a fan of Steven Universe technically before it was cool. Oh, I've done them the last 2 years. In fact, the reason I'm Jammer Lammy now is because there is a Rhythm Games shoot at 4 p.m. today. Probably Pokemon. I've been shout out incoming. The hosts including but not limited to Dylan Norrell, aka Dyronius, and Brooke Bernhardt, aka Dappleme, are just very, very, very nice and patient and easy to work with, and they put up with so much of my klutziness. But they're not just great hosts, they're great friends, and so is the entire Pokemon community. Shout out Pokemon Convention Connections group on Facebook. This is my 3rd year. I started going 2018. I like how chill it is, and it's mostly a gaming con, and there's always something to do. So even though there are a lot of people running around, there's not it's not something that you'd have to fight through big crowds for. It's kind of like the right moment of in the middle. Well, my favorite memory, and one that a lot of people probably have seen, is back in the contest in 2018, I walked up on stage as Mr. Rossetti, and I just started yelling at everyone to stop resetting their games, like basically reformatting Mr. Rossetti's speech from the Animal Crossing game to be like real life, like, oh, did you run out of batteries? There's no excuse. There's a CVS a couple blocks from here that sells them for cheap, and there's all sorts of outlets around. So, yeah, Jay actually was saying A button to get me off the stage, and then I yelled at it, and I'm like, hey, are you trying to get me to scram? That is probably my shining moment at Magfest. Even though I lost the contest hard, I'm very happy, and so was Jay. Game I've played at Magfest. Nobody's ever asked me that. Maybe that Simpsons game, just because I'm a huge Simpsons nut. There's a Simpsons arcade game, yeah.
You spend a lot of time at the arcade?
Yes, I do. Very likely. Well, it has its ups and downs from the other cons that I've been to, like KatsuCon, BlurredCon, and Otakon and Anime USA, but it's, as I said before, I do like how it has a very big space, unlike last year's BlurredCon, which really needs to move out of that Hyatt. Anyway, yeah, and I mean, I like that there is a lot, like I said, that there's a lot to do, or you can just relax, and I don't always feel pressured to rush around or anything, even with all my fandoms and all those things I've scheduled, and it's just, and like with most places, it's often seen as like a reunion with my friends, and an opportunity to make new ones, and to grow my network. Well, I let them know about the video game theme, let them know about the arcades and everything, and the fact that there's still cosplay there, even though some people like to deny it, yeah, just tell them about the overall space and the atmosphere, and just how it is. Matty's Masquerades on Instagram and on Facebook. Those are my cosplay pages. Yeah. And so that's how you can reach me, huh?